Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cats and Bolts podcast. It is episode number 11 of Florida's favorite hockey show, where we talk weekly about the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I am your host, Rod Peterson, joined by co-host Serena Taylor, who you're going to see in seconds. There she is, smiling and nodding. And we're very excited to be back for another week, brought to you by our friends at DraftKings, Beach House Pompano, Boresco, the Diamond Lab, proudly offering the finest laboratory-grown diamonds here in downtown Boca Raton, Florida, and our newest sponsor, Johnny O's Gymnasium. Work out with the pros at Johnny O's. Florida's largest outdoor covered gymnasium is Johnny O's. Check us out on Boca Raton Boulevard. I'm going to stop talking now because we've got a very special guest. Benny, if we can get the wide shot here, the three of us. We've got Dale Tallon with us, the former general manager of the Florida Panthers, the Chicago Blackhawks, the veteran of, I wrote it down here, 642 NHL games with Vancouver, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. Dale, welcome. Great to see you.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Yeah, well, we're honored, and I got to tell you, Serena and I were kicking this around earlier, how to ask what your claim to fame is, because when I mentioned you're coming on the show, there was like 20 different things people said you were famous for. What is your
infamous? I don't know.
Yeah, what would be your sports? Come on, be honest.
Well, obviously it's hockey and golf and broadcasting are the three things that I've been known for in the NHL, and you know that I'm very proud of what's happened, and I'm very blessed and had a great career, and it's not over yet. I still get a little work left with Vancouver, trying to get them to win a cup, their only cup, and we're improving and getting to a better situation, and I'm excited about our future.
Awesome.
Rod asked me earlier, he's like, I'm going to ask him, what is this, or that? What does he think is his best? I'm like, no, let him answer, because it's going to be something we're not expecting. But I do want to slide right into the Canucks, because I'm personally an Oilers fan, and I think that the Oilers fans and the people that follow the team are probably just as shocked about the Oilers start as they are about the Canucks start. But on the flip side, talk about the Canucks and their start this year.
Well, we made some changes, obviously getting a talk as a coach last year mid-season, changed the whole direction of the club with some structure and passion and all those good things. And I think over the off-season, Jim Rutherford and Patrick Albin, the whole team together, we had to improve some areas in our depth and improve our D. And improve our goaltending, improve the whole team. And we did that gradually throughout the summer, piece by piece, and it's starting to pay off. I think the guys are more familiar with the structure and the system that Talk's put in place. And we're just overall a better team, competing better. We're deeper than we were. We're still not where we need to be yet, but things are looking up. And that's all you can ask for is improvement every day, and improving your deals every day and getting better every day, because it's tough competing with Vegas, LA, Dallas. All these teams are so solid throughout their rosters that you can't have any weaknesses, and we're working hard at patching all the holes and making it a better team, and you got to give the players a lot of credit for buying in and really getting excited and getting off to a great start.
Well, I'll tell you what, I love that she jumped right in on the Canucks. We will get to the Panthers, because I asked some Panthers fans for questions for you. So I got a few of those, and our audience has some just NHL related. But I got to be honest, Dale, the thing that came out the most, probably a half a dozen people said to me, first ever draft pick of the Vancouver Canucks, Dale Tallon, second overall, 1970. That's a pretty good thing to be known for.
I always tell everybody scouting's improved a lot since then. But one of the reasons I went so high, I never expected that. Gilbert Pro, Junior Canadians. I was with the Toronto Marlboros, and we had a great rivalry, and we had great games, and we had great teams and a great support cast. And I think 10 guys from our team played in the NHL. And I think likewise the Junior Canadians had a lot of players that played in the NHL as well. But wherever Pro went, I seemed to go. And since the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, I played against them when we were 9, 10 years old. So, I just happened to be in the direction that he was going in, trying to catch him, and happened to be in the right place some nights. But it was a team concept, and I was elated that I was drafted. It could have been Buffalo or Vancouver, or I thought maybe I was going to go to Boston. They picked third. Toronto was 10th, I think. Darryl Sittler went to Toronto. So, I never thought that I'd go that high, but I was honored to go, and I'm happy I went to Vancouver. It wasn't the greatest start to a career, but I learned a lot, and I made a lot of great relationships, and with Orland Kurtenbach, Pat Quinn, those types of people really helped me a lot in my career. And I look back, and things have worked out pretty well as far as going to Chicago from there and then ending up in Pittsburgh. But my body failed me. I had too many surgeries to really perform the way I wanted to and the way I was capable of.
To clarify, Gilbert Perreault is what we're talking about, right?
Right, yeah.
1/3 of the French Connection. Yeah. I could go all day, Serena, so you go and then come back to me.
I could talk about all this stuff all day,
We're
too.
going to.
But what a special person Pat Quinn was.
Fantastic. He took me under his wing. Orland Kurtenbach, those guys are, really special to me. I was a 19-year-old boy, and they made me into a 20-year-old man in a hurry. So I really love those guys, and I can't thank them enough for what they've done for me and my family and my life. And they were just class acts, and I learned so much about life after and off the ice from them. And they taught me to be a good, solid person. And I'm happy that I was able to play with them.
Interesting you say that. This is how I knew you were a good guy, Dale, because I'd never met you till a couple of weeks ago. But for the last couple of years in the press box at FLA Live Arena, now I'm Merritt Bank Arena, you always nodded to me. And I would nod, and I'm like, you don't know who I am.
This guy?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm just a nobody, retired football, hockey announcer from Canada. You don't know who I am, but thanks, Dale, for being a nice guy. So I knew you were a good guy. And Jeff Rimmer, you're obviously close with him.
Yeah. Rim's a good friend of mine.
Former TV, well, he's going to retire at the end of this year with Columbus. And he goes, this guy built 2 franchises, Chicago and Florida. And I don't really know, I've been looking up, it never ends how we want, right? Anywhere, ever. That's a nice thing to be known for, too.
Yeah, I'm proud of what's happened. I'm proud of the fact that I had really good people with me, and it was a team concept, and that's the way it has to be. There were titles were meaningless, and so Rick Dudley and Mark Bergevin and Mark Kelly, and go down the line, Bruce Franklin, Michel Dumas. And in Chicago, we had numerous guys that really helped. I really wasn't sure what I was going to do when I became the general manager there. I knew what I wasn't going to do, but I experimented. We tried things. We had different ideas, but we had consensus, and we all had professionalism, and we all learned from each other, and we did what was best for the franchise. And I was very fortunate to have good people surrounding me.
I feel like everything that you're saying right now indicates why you were such a good leader. Do you feel like being the general manager of a team, you have to rely on the people that work with you and for you?
Well, no doubt. I mean, otherwise you just be by yourself and work by yourself. You have to rely on other people. I mean, they're so critical. Your scouts especially. And I had a great rapport with them, and we had an open, honest relationship. We were transparent. We argued about players, but in the bottom line was what was best for the Blackhawks or for the Panthers, and that's how we went about it. And I incorporated everyone: the stick boy, the trainer, anybody that had information that could be helpful. I wanted them to know that they could voice their opinions and be a part of the solution, and that's how I operated.
I love that.
Well, that's how you win. And good for you, Dale. And that's echoed throughout both franchises. But I've done a lot of events, public speaking, with Bobby and Dennis Hull. And where you came onto my radar, yeah, see, did you have a shot of that? The reaction? They love you. And I think of you as a broadcaster. So we got to talk about that. Like, you were a player, but then a broadcaster before you were a management guy.
Right. Well, I watched a lot of bad hockey.
No
and
kidding.
I watched, the Hawks weren't very good, and and I learned a lot from sitting up there, because it's easy up there. You don't make many mistakes when you're sitting up there. You're perfect, actually. What do you do that for? And what do you do? But when you're playing out there, it's like you're in a closet some nights and you can't get out of your own way. But as a broadcaster, I watched and I learned a lot. And I especially got a lot of valuable information from people. It'd be interesting how many people would volunteer stuff. And that's something that my staff was told not to. The only time, my motto was, you go in the rink, as soon as you walk in the rink, eyes and ears open, mouth shut. And the only time you gave information was to mislead. And, that was kind of like confidentiality was an important part of it, as far as trades or as far as drafting players. And I really like going to the small rinks and the junior games and seeing the people and seeing the communities get involved. And that really invigorated you, and you wanted to be a part of that. And you wanted to see these kids succeed so that their parents would be happy and the community would back them. And that's the whole process of it. That's what's so much fun about this business.
Mm-hmm. Well, and by the way, a mentor of mine, and Serena will know, is Rich Preston.
Right.
Coolest man.
One of the greatest guys ever.
Right. And he thinks the
Worst
world of you.
dresser ever, but
He makes anything look good. Right?
and a worst golfer, by the way, too.
Well, better than me, but that doesn't take much.
But he's one of the classic guys of all time.
But you would have overseen going from Chicago State, not overseen it, but part of going from Chicago Stadium to United Center,
yes,
which would have been real cool. Why did you get out of the booth and into management? Had you had enough? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
I had enough of making stuff up. The team wasn't very good, and Bob Murray was a general manager, and he came to me. We were teammates, and he asked me if I had any interest in getting involved in the hockey department. And I said, yes, I was, because I was tired of making things up, and I was tired of not being that honest about what was going on the ice. Because after all, I was being paid by the Blackhawks, so it was a bit of a homer. Obviously, that's where the money was coming from, and I wanted them to do well, but they weren't doing well. And they weren't doing a lot of things well. So when Bob came to me and asked me if I wanted to get involved, and I said, well, what's the salary? And when he told me, I gulped, because I had a pretty good gig going. I was a golf pro. I was playing a celebrity tour, and I was broadcasting. So there wasn't a lot of stress. It was a comfortable life. My kids always wanted me to be that way. When I got back into the hockey business, I kind of lost that. It was stressful, and I wasn't the same guy, and they missed that. And so there was a sacrifice to be made, but I'm glad I did it, and I thank Bob Murray for it, because he was the one that gave me my first start.
Well, he could clearly see, even though you've never been in that position before, the kind of person you are. You can, as long as you have the knowledge and you're that kind of a leader, you can make it work.
Well, you have to have confidence, and I believed in myself, and because I had a lot of good mentors, as Pat Quinn, Curtin Back, all those types of people. Dennis Hull, Jimmy Pappin, of course, one of my favorite people, and one of my great friends. Jimmy and Dennis were responsible for me getting traded to the Blackhawks. So I was happy to lean on them and get information. And so it was an accumulation of great experiences along the line that helped describe what you want to be as far as a management person. I told Bill Wirtz when he hired me, I said, Bill, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw stuff against the wall. We're going to try things differently, but I know what I'm not going to do. And the one thing that I told him is that the lack of communication. 10 years as a player, I hardly spoke to my coach. I very rarely spoke to my general manager, and I wanted to change that. I thought there was a void there. I thought with the new young athlete that they wanted communication. They wanted to be honest with you and transparent with you, and they wanted to know where they stood and how to get better. And that's what I wanted to do. And we were able to do that with the staff that we hired.
Well, and here in Florida, I mean, this is my third season covering the Panthers, which coincides with you not being the GM. So I know how long it takes to build a culture and an organization. Your fingerprints are all over this. And I said to Serena, I come home every night and go, I just can't believe how positive everybody is, and everybody chips in for each other. Everybody lends a hand to each other here. That's not new, right? That's impressive.
Well, that's how you have to do it, I think, to be successful in any business. The people, you look at the greatest companies and the greatest organizations, what's there that's different than anyone else is great communication and trust and
culture
and love of each other. Yeah. It only takes one bad apple, as they say. It only takes one player that doesn't buy in, and the whole team could be doomed. So you got to be really careful. We had a motto: was character, more character. Those were the things, and I like characters with character. That's a lack I see now in the game today. There aren't many characters like there were in the past, but that's I don't know what the product is, but the guys are, I think, a little leery to really go outside the lines a little bit, because you can't really make a move today. Everyone's got their cameras and their phones, and so guys are a little bit skeptical and a little worried about what people might say if they do act a little bit differently. But I like guys that have different opinions.
Some of us don't care, right, Serena?
If you weren't here, we'd be 10 minutes into fighting already.
No.
Yeah, that's how we
See that.
communicate.
It's the
here.
oddest
Just-
thing. We don't
Yeah.
fight at home. We don't
Rolling in
agree.
public?
With that. No, we don't. You see us at the games. We sit with Bill Lindsay's dad.
Yeah, right.
And we don't agree on any of what we're seeing. Which, by the way, we have a bit of a difference of opinion of Connor Bedard. Were you at the game here? You must have been.
Yeah.
What did you think of him?
I think he's really good. I think he's a great young man, and I think he's going to become a superstar. I think he's got all the tools. He's not tall, but he's thick and strong, and he's willing to get better and stronger. And my son-in-law Brian Kane works with him pretty closely. He's skills and skating coach with the Blackhawks, and he spent a lot of time with him, and really likes him and thinks he's got a lot of potential. And I think so too.
Should we worry about his defensive?
No.
That's what I say. That's what I say.
I never said to worry about his defensive play,
You
but
just
when
say
they
it's
were
bad.
here, it was atrocious, and I wasn't the
Well,
only one that said that. I'm not saying he's a bad
It's
player
not-
for the
you know,
90th
It's
time.
hard to judge him because the team that he's playing with is the only talent they really have, and teams are starting to focus on him, and it's difficult for a young guy who just turned 18 years old to carry the load. But he's fine. He's got 11 goals. He's got almost a point a game, and a team that doesn't score much and doesn't have a lot of skill as far as to keep up with him as far as his ability. But I don't think there's any question that he will be a star.
He's definitely poised. That's the one thing I say to Rod. He can get hit into the boards. He can get hit at center ice, and he just gets up and keeps going. He'll never
He'll learn
complains.
to play defense. He'll learn to be better in his own end. But that's coaching and experience and all those things. But you don't want him to suffer offensively either. They say that a lot about guys that are offensive when they don't defend. Well, there are very few guys like Barkov that are schooled offensively and defensively as a 19-year-old kid, and so I wouldn't worry about his defense at all.
I used to argue with Bobby Lowe's about that because I was in the WHL for 20 years. I say, we got 19 guys that can defend inside our blue line. Can we let the one guy that can score go score?
Yeah.
But Bobby wants 20 hard-nosed guys.
It depends on the coach, I mean, obviously some coaches don't like guys to go outside the boundaries, and that's why they don't win.
Or have their own rules.
You've got to let those guys within the realm of a system be creative and be themselves.
And who am I to argue with the two-time CHL Coach of the Year? But that's me. One of the Panthers fans wanted me to ask you about the Bobrovsky contract. And full disclosure, I'm a goalie guy, and I'm not just kissing your butt because you're here. But I love Bob, and obviously you do too.
Well, we had a weakness, and we needed somebody, and free agency, you always, that's a day you dread as a general manager because the players have all the power, and then you get it in August, and it flips to you. But that we were in the bid for Panera and Bobrovsky, and we were trying to improve our team. And in July 1st, you overpay. There's no doubt about it. And for the first little while, everyone thought we overpaid. But what's market value? And what's it worth? And look what he did last year. Look what he's doing this year. One thing about Bobrovsky that I really liked about him when we interviewed him and talked to him and brought him in here to see if we could sign him or not was that he made a promise to us that he was just going to get better, that he was going to do everything in his power to get better. Off ice, he's unbelievable, and I trusted him, and I trusted his work ethic and his character and his passion for the game and his ability. And like you say, the contracts. They're tough. They're like, but July 1st, you're bending over.
Would you do it again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. I mean, look, there aren't many good goalies anymore.
No. Tell him what you say about Bob. What is Matt like? What he looks like out there?
What did I say?
I was always frantic. He always, you took a blindfold off him because he's
yeah,
always.
yeah. It's like someone pulled a blindfold off him, and he's like, but I hear
unorthodox.
It's interesting what you say because you're the one that gets to know him as a human being when you're in these contract negotiations. So for people to say, why would they do that or whatever, I don't know. But it's all about, like you said, a character person. If you believed he was going to do his best to improve, I believe that based on what you just said. Why wouldn't you? You can't put a price on a goaltender these days.
Well, the problem is when you sign someone, they try to, that first year, the burden of that contract, and the very thing I said to him, I said, don't let this contract, it's done, it's signed, you're a Panther. Don't let it be a burden to you. And that's what happens. These guys sign these huge contracts, and they carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. And they want to do more, and they want to do more than they're capable. And it didn't work quite so well the first year. And that's probably why, because he cared so much. And he understood that was a lot of money, and he wanted to prove that he was worth that kind of money. And most guys that sign those big contracts that first year is a burden because they put too much pressure on themselves. And as time has gone on, he's gotten better and better, as the team has gotten better and better as well. So, you're only as good some nights as the guys in front of you. And so, this is a good team. Florida has a really good team. They go to the finals. And I think the team this year is better than last year's team, in my opinion. So,
I do too. Well, you may or may not care, but I haven't even heard any criticism of that contract since. Obviously not last year in the playoffs. Like Bill Lindsay said, his play right now is making the deal worth it. Remember he said that?
Yeah, absolutely.
On the show one time, Billy said that.
Well, I mean, they went to the finals and a lot of home games and a lot of revenue and a chance to win the cup. That's what you pay them for, and you might only get one chance at it. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult in this cap era to be a dynasty and continue to win. That's what makes it so fantastic that Tampa's done it and got 3 straight finals, and but it took them time to get there, and it takes 6 to 8, 10 years to build a team that can keep that consistency and get guys. You can't panic. You gotta make sure that you're very consistent with your moves and the type of team you have, and keep adding pieces as you go, as we did in Chicago. We were patient, let the young guys play and learn. And then we added pieces as we went along, and namely Marian Hossa, and first Brian Campbell, and then Marian Hossa, and those are the pieces that put the team over the top. But you've got to build from within first. Mm-hmm. You've got to have that core, and you've got to have people that are competing for jobs on a regular basis. And that's inner competition is the key as well.
I got more.
Yeah, go.
Okay, well, you mentioned the Lightning. It's a pretty good segue. We try to talk Lightning here as much as we can, but we live here. But you're watching them?
Yeah.
So Vazzy comes back, and they held the fort, right? They were in the playoffs till they came back. Then they win 8-2, and then they lose 4 in a row, including an 8-1 loss the other day. Right. And they're making little mistakes, offsides. Their heads aren't in it. They don't seem like the same team right now.
Well, they lost some key people, and the cap. They're victims of the cap. They're victims of their own success. It's hard to maintain that when you have a cap that only went up $1 million or stayed the same for a couple of years, and now it's going to go up to 87.5 supposedly, and that'll help them. But they lost some really, good players, and to replace them that quickly is a hard thing to do, to put them in those spots where they had such good success, and you could rely on those players. And it took those players 5 to 7 years to learn the proper system, how they fit in to the organization, so that they would have that success. And they lost a couple of those guys, those good forwards they knew exactly what to do in any given situation.
Did you have a Stamkos type situation here with anybody, whereby what he's dealing with right now, that he
not really, no.
No,
and like maybe when I first came to Florida, a couple of guys, they weren't doing very well here, and a couple of players when I first got the job, the day I got the job, I called them and said, "Do you want to be a part of what I'm going to try and do here?" And one player said yes, and the other player said no. So we said, fine. And if you don't want to be a part of it, that's okay. I can understand your frustration, but we'll make a good effort to get you in a place where you're comfortable, and that's what happens. And you get good assets back and use those assets to build the team that you want.
Yeah, and I think you would get attached to guys in a way connected. Like, I thought about Huberdeau. When he was traded, how did you feel? We were talking about a franchise great.
Well, I mean, I have nothing else to say, but I have great respect for Hubie, Joe, or whatever you want to call him. But he's a good person, and he's struggling in Calgary, but he'll get through it. And he had good numbers here, really good numbers. He and Barkov, but that's the nature of the beast, cap, the cap, the cap. And you can't keep them all. So you have to have a really good organization that drafts well and has a good minor league system and good instruction and good player development people, and all that stuff is a big part of it. And you have to make sure you have someone to replace them. And he's going to be fine. He's got 8 years to figure it out. 10 million.
Yeah, and he's not looking for his next meal, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, I always felt like Huberdeau was going to, I was shocked, obviously, the first year in Calgary, but I think he's going to pull out of it. I agree with you. He's a great player.
Well, he doesn't, if you're sitting there watching him, he does all the little things very well. He's not one of those dynamic skaters or a dynamic up and down guy like Bobby Hull was or anything. But he does all these little subtle things, and maybe it's the opportunity to play with Barkov. That took a while to develop that, and it takes time. In Calgary, they're probably trying on Kadri and different centermen, and it takes a while to build that chemistry. And once he gets the right combination, or they get him with the right combination of people, but he makes all those little plays. All those great little 6-foot passes, and he's unselfish. I wish he was more selfish and shot more, but that's the way it is. Those players that are pass first guys are guys that are unselfish, are key to your success as well. And you have to have a good shooter with them, and you have to really pay attention. A left-hand shot centerman, get your shooter on the right side, get your playmaker and two-way winger on the left side. It's not that complicated. They're trying to make it more complicated than it is, but it's a simple game.
Agreed.
We only got a few moments left here. I do have to ask you this about NHL Canadian teams, because I have spent half my time in Calgary, and it's just insane. And they tell me Toronto's 10 times worse. The glare, the pressure. Would it have been tough to be a GM in the Canadian market? Did you ever have any interest?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to be where everybody here in Florida. It was great. We didn't have a lot of coverage as far as pressure, as far as the media coverage you get. And, Mark Bergevin's a dear friend of mine, and I got him started in the business in Chicago. And he went through hell in Montreal there for a few years. It's difficult, but you deal with it. And certain people are better at it than others. And Vancouver's a tough spot. Calgary, but this is what makes you, get up and be excited about playing and working. And you want guys that want to accept that pressure and want to play and perform in those cities. And those are guys that are character guys that you really will have success with. And it's ruined a lot of guys as well. So you have to have a special character to be able to deal with the pressure of the multimedia in Montreal. You got English and French. Toronto, obviously, is a huge market. Winnipeg and Calgary and Vancouver and Edmonton, they're tough. I lived it. As a 19-year-old in Vancouver, I thought my nickname was Moose for a couple of years there. But
Yeah. Why?
the fans were booing all the time.
Oh, Moose. Yeah, right.
They wanted Perreault. They didn't want me. And I can understand that. I'd be the same way.
Well, it all ended up the same anyway.
Yeah.
Wherever Perreault went or you went, it's all the same.
Well, just we talk about the pressure, no matter where you are, whether you can ignore it or not. Were you able to ignore it?
No. It's impossible. You're not a human.
Or the noise, or whatever you want to say.
No, the noise, you get used to the noise. But some of the media and some of the, when you're in your rookie year or in your second year, you've never been put through that, because all those years up to that time, you've been the guy, like in Toronto Marlies or wherever you played, you were the guy. So you never had any negative publicity. And then all of a sudden you go to the major leagues and you go to the NHL, and everyone is like you or better than you, and you don't have the success you think you should have had or that you had in the past. It's an adjustment. And when things aren't going well and somebody starts criticizing you, which you've never been criticized before, it can hurt. So you've got to be able to move on, and brush it off and move on. Not easier said than done, but you eventually do, if you want to stay in the league.
Well, that's why I think the Tkachuk situation here is perfect. Because he can largely, I would think, go somewhere and people don't know who he is, yet he's getting all the money and he's the face of the team.
Yeah, it's a great place to play. I mean, when I started here in Florida, it was a place for guys to go and retire. I'm going to play 2 years there, 3 years there, and that was the end of it, But we wanted to change that culture and make it a destination that we wanted to win, and we wanted people that wanted to be here to win, because there's so many things that can sidetrack you here. It's tough to get up and go to the practice when you're in your sandals and it's 80 degrees and you really don't want to, some days. And you've got to have a strong determination and passion for the game and really be focused to stay focused to be successful in Florida.
I just have one last question. It's from our buddy Jeff, who watches every day and has got nothing to do with anything what we've been talking about. He just says, who is our surprise team so far of the NHL season to this point? We're not even at Christmas yet. I would think he's thinking surprise in a good way. And I'm going to go first and say Detroit. And do you think that they are a legit contender? They're in a playoff spot today, as we said.
Well, they can score. They got a lot of skill now. They have different combinations, line combinations, and adding Kane, I think, will really help them. DeBrincat, you've got Perron, Larkin. They've got good forwards and good young defensemen. When it all comes down to defense and goaltending, to get deeper into the playoffs, but it's hard to score goals too. And they can score goals. I think they've scored 5 or more in 10 games. I think that's more than anybody in the league so far. So yeah, they're a contender. You just have to get in.
Exactly.
Once you get in,
point.
Look at the last year. Chicago beats Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, game 81.
Florida's in.
If the other way around, Pittsburgh wins, Florida's out. And maybe Pittsburgh goes to the finals. So you just have to get in. And then you can play an elite team in 7 games. You might get something might happen to you in a positive way. Your goaltender gets hot, theirs doesn't. A key injury. So it's just a matter of getting in the playoffs. That's the hardest part, because half the teams miss.
Who's your surprise teams?
Well, I think Vancouver is probably the biggest surprise as far as how high in the standings they are. I knew they'd be better, but I didn't think they'd be this good this quickly. And I'm kind of on the other way. Buffalo, I don't know what's going on there. It's
Expected more.
Pardon?
I expected more.
Yeah, I expected more. I thought, Detroit and Buffalo and Ottawa as well. Ottawa's another team. Those 2 teams, Buffalo and Ottawa, I thought would do very well. But there's still lots of time. They're young. They're learning their craft. They still might surprise yet, but they've got potential to be very good, both those teams.
I feel the same way. Even New Jersey, I thought they might be a little stronger this year.
But they've been hurt. They've got their,
sure.
2 top player forwards were hurt for a while together, so they'll be fine. And it's just a matter of if their goaltending can handle it. And Hamilton's hurt right now, so they have the talent, and they have a good coach, and they have a good organization, and it's hard to win in the NHL.
Yeah, of course.
Every night you just don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Vancouver came quickly. Like we were talking about how long it takes to build, and that's what I was thinking when you were saying about how fast it happened. But I'm also a little surprised, maybe not surprised, but I feel like the Kings are more of a dark horse than people thought they were going to be.
That's a good team. They're big,
yes.
and they're strong, and they're well coached, and they're going to be a tough team to beat.
They've been playing really well.
Mm-hmm. It's a good, solid team.
I guess while we have you here, can you just give us a take on the Oilers? Because everybody has one.
They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. I like their coach. I always liked him. I liked him when he was in Erie. I think they'll be fine. They got too much talent not to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, big finish. They'll be fine.
Okay. That was easy.
Yeah. And
That makes her feel good. That's her
I can sleep tonight. I do have one random question for you, though. Who was your team growing up?
Well, I lived in Rouen-Noranda, and we've got we only could get a French station. Very seldom we get a Leaf game. We always got Chicago was always when they walked up those stairs in the old stadium when I was a kid. Whenever we could see them, there wasn't that often. But Montreal, Rocket Richard, René Lecavalier was the play-by-play guy. We couldn't get an English station. Once in a while we get Tim in CFCL or whatever it was. But if we stuck your head out the window holding a hanger with the tin foil over it, we could hear a game. But Foster Hewitt doing a Leaf game. But we had Montreal Canadiens games. So, Jean Beliveau was an idol of mine, and Rocket Richard. I had number 9 jersey when I was a kid. But up there, Chicago was my team.
Wow.
Did you get to go to the Forum and watch Habs play?
As a kid?
As a kid,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Dickie Moore, and I got the whole team's autograph when I was 9 years old. Went into the locker room there when I was a kid. I remember that.
Wow. So you were born in 1950.
50.
Yeah.
59,
I'll let you up.
60.
Billy Hickey on those teams?
Yeah, Ralph Backstrom, Billy Hickey.
Right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they were great.
Dale, you're great. I can't thank you enough for coming down, man.
Well, my
thanks,
pleasure.
Thanks
I
for the
was
time.
enjoying it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
this
for
is
being
good
so
job.
nice, and we'll see you in the press box.
I look forward to it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
former Panthers and Blackhawks GM Dale Tallon, everybody. We'll see you next week. This has been episode 11. Big thank you to our sponsors, The Beach House, who have put up a $100 gift card for Dale. They are on, what is it, Serena? Pompano Beach Boulevard. Scenic
They're on the
ocean
sand.
views. Yeah, just look it up on your phone. Yeah.
It's on the sand.
Yeah, it's on the sand. Also, the Diamond Lab here in downtown Boca, and Johnny O's gym. Work out with the pros at Johnny O's. And we'll see you next week here on Cats and Bolts, live from Podcast Junkie Studios.